You ain't gonna have no problem from Vito, believe me.
Never handle a mafia secret like Vito did, unless you want to make everything 10 times worse. Coming up, strap in as we crack open Vito's disastrous secret, Tony's loyalty-shattering debt dodge, Paulie's cosmic bad luck, Carmela's unspoken sin, and the asbestos scandal, darker than a mob hit. Stick around to learn why a plain face can kill romance, what really kept Ralphie breathing after Tracy, and who's next to flip when power's on the table.
So say it. Let me hear you say, "What's up, Vito?"
What's up, Vito?
Vito could have handled this much more strategically. Instead of panicking after Finn saw him at the club, all he had to do was slip Finn $500 and say, "You're doing a great job. Keep it up." Finn would have gotten the message. Then Vito could have gone about his business as usual. Once the story leaked, he could have played dumb and acted outraged. Nobody would believe him entirely, but that's enough to give Tony some plausible deniability. Maybe Vito would need to lay low in Atlantic City for a while, but he could still earn for himself and the crew.
You ain't gonna have no problem from Vito, believe me.
That's essentially what Tony did with Adriana. Make a public show that things were hank so nobody would dare gossip.
Except they got a little surprise for you. 2 tickets to see your Padres take a beat from the Yanks tonight.
And Finn? Vito didn't even need a serious bribe. A quiet word and a simple, "Do me a favor and keep this between us," probably would have been enough. Finn is a college student, liberal-minded for the time, and obviously not part of their world. Violence unsettled him, and the money would have ensured his gigglance.
I saw him blowing some security guard in the parking lot.
Vito also could have just denied everything at the club, acted like he didn't even recognize Finn or care who Sal was. Given Finn's outsider status, that would have been difficult to prove.
I want to kill the fat faggot myself, be a fucking honor.
And it's surprising, Vito never took more drastic action against the guys who recognized him. It was risky, sure, but doing nothing left him exposed.
I'm really afraid of this guy.
Vito Spatafori is a married man.
Still, Vito handled the situation the way he did because he only knew one way to navigate threats: the mafia way. Finn wasn't someone Vito could read. Vito assumed Finn was like any other 20-year-old from his world, someone who'd only respond to fear and leverage. What he failed to see was that Finn wasn't like that at all. Finn wasn't built for this life. And that blind spot is what ultimately cost Vito. His mistakes were tragic, but they were also completely in character. Everyone thinks Tony Soprano's all about loyalty, but wait till you see what he's willing to do just to avoid paying a debt.
You forget I wrote 6 gold records.
A couple of black kids wrote 6 gold records. You own the company, you gave yourself a co-writing credit. Come on, Hesh. Besides, I know you. You leave this action, you're gonna kill yourself.
It took Hesh's wife dying for Tony to finally cough up the cash. Only then did Tony feel enough guilt or fear of the optics to settle the debt. Otherwise, he'd been seriously toying with the idea of getting rid of Hesh entirely just to erase the vig and principle. This is Hesh we're talking about, someone who goes back to Johnny Boy's days, someone who probably had a hand in half of Tony's income streams and who never gave him serious problems. So why was Tony acting so strangely?
He owns a horse farm.
Hey, he's Tony's friend, not mine.
Hesh was valuable, liked by everyone, and an obvious asset to keep close.
Hey, the poor fuck was suffering from inoperable cancer or some shit.
Suicide runs in families. Maybe it was his mother or his old man took the gas pipe when Eugene was a kid.
By the later seasons, Tony's behavior had changed. Even though he seemed more even-keeled and pragmatic on the surface, this incident exposed the cracks. Borrowing 6 figures and then complaining about paying the vig wasn't just a financial issue, it was a reminder of how far he'd fallen. Deep down, it stung Tony's pride, so he projected all that self-loathing onto Hesh.
Who ever heard of a Jew riding horses?
He owns a horse farm.
There was also a jealous streak at play. Hesh had real wealth, freedom, and stability, a horse farm, a bachelor's life, things Tony could never truly enjoy. Meanwhile, Tony was forever looking for loopholes in his obligations. That contradiction ran through him constantly, always expecting other people to honor their debts while making excuses for himself. It's exactly the kind of hypocrisy that defines him. He idolized a Gary Cooper image of stoic strength, but in practice he was a chronic complainer who avoided responsibility whenever he could.
Would you call it growing up Soprano? I guess. I don't know.
And while the gunshot and coma might have set up a classic redemption story, Tony doesn't take that path. Instead, we see him leaning into his darker instincts. Hesh's debt wasn't an outlier, it was a symptom of Tony's larger decline. Even if the execution of that arc wasn't always seamless, the meaning was clear. Tony was choosing to embrace his worst habits, not fight them. That said, Hesh was hardly a perfect friend either. Throughout the years, he manipulated Tony into stepping in whenever he was threatened and kept benefiting from Tony's protection without fairly compensating him. Even back in the first season, when Junior levied his tax, Hesh made sure Tony handed him his cutback. Later on, Hesh profited from property that had originally been Johnny Boy's without telling Tony, and when the time came to pay up, he acted like a victim.
I say 1.5 on a shy business and 300 on a back tax. 250. What'd I tell you? Hold on to your cock when you negotiate with these desert people.
That tense car ride after the debt was settled highlighted this complicated history. Tony's invitation to the boat show felt like both an olive branch and an intimidation tactic, a way to smooth things over or assert his dominance depending on the moment. Tony is driven by impulse, addiction to risk, and the chase for that next big win. Paying Hesh back wasn't a matter of honor. It was a matter of timing. Tony only did it because his luck turned briefly. If that hadn't happened, he would have found some other way to make the problem disappear. If you've ever wondered why Paulie always seems to draw the short straw, you're not alone.
As well as can be expected.
Must be very hard for you.
Man, they really went overboard with Paulie's betrayals, didn't they? Sure, characters need hardships, that's part of the game, but they piled it on him so much it felt sadistic. First his mom, then Vito. It started to feel like outright torture.
Vito spat a 4 is an ass muncher. Oh!
What did you just say?
I'm sorry, it's true. You ain't it?
Every time something happened, it was like someone had just stabbed him in the heart. And seriously, how much betrayal can one guy take? It's like wondering if it's just coincidence that Lou Gehrig ended up with Lou Gehrig's disease.
Then saw him giving some guy a blowjob.
And Vito? Absolutely ruthless. What a selfish prick. The way Vito stabbed Paulie in the back was savage.
Otherwise, I'd have you out there with your snippers, even with your bum wing.
And as if that weren't enough, there was the great lawnmower beef. Sally Balls Vito and his son were unbelievably rude to him. Paulie went out of his way to save the Vito family business, and their jewels too, and hardly took anything for himself. Yet they acted like he was some kind of leech. Give the guy a break! Here's the ugly truth about Carmela Soprano that nobody talks about. Carmela, sipping her coffee with practiced superiority, tilted her chin at Hunter. "That was always you," she drawled, the words landing like a backhand across the table.
I haven't seen you at spinning class lately. And I went by, rang the bell a couple times, you weren't home either. Escalator, and I'm yelling, Jeannie, Jeannie. And that's when I realized it was your sister.
Never mind that Hunter was being vulnerable, admitting she'd once been kicked out of college before turning her life around. To Carmela, this was an opportunity. One more chance to remind someone they weren't really up to scratch.
My sister, she's so busy. That's all. Really, Jeannie?
Why? Because deep down, Carmela can't stand women who make their own way. They remind her she hitched her whole life to Tony, seeking money and status rather than earning it herself. And the irony is obvious.
Because my Meadow applied to Georgetown. And I am hoping and praying to Jesus.
Carmela loves putting on a show of class and culture, boasting about her house, her car, and Meadow's achievements as though they were trophies. But she also threw away Meadow's acceptance letters once. Meadow might become a mob lawyer, but at least she stays close and dependent. Hunter had the nerve to straighten up and leave the world. Carmela is too scared to escape. That's what burns Carmela most. Hunter's story is one of self-determination, a teenager who partied too much, then pulled herself together and earned her place in medical school. It throws into sharp relief the one thing Carmela will never do: take a risk that doesn't involve someone else footing the bill.
Listen, Carmela, I spoke to my sister about the letter from Meadow, and she's sorry, but she just can't do it. I'm sorry.
That mean streak is classic Carmela. Remember the letter of recommendation she bullied Jeannie's sister into withdrawing? The Porsche she flaunted in front of Ginny Sack, who was losing her house? Even the way she used Furio to provoke Tony.
Well, because she already wrote a letter for someone else.
Carmela thrives on feeling superior, especially over other women who dare to stand on their own. Deep down, she's an insecure person, dressed up in designer clothes, terrified someone might look too closely and see she never earned a thing. And that's why she can't help but take a swipe at Hunter. It wasn't just mean, it was telling. Here's what nobody tells you about the mafia and asbestos, and it's way darker than you think. Is the asbestos in The Sopranos' final season simply an allegory for the mafia? Essentially, yes, but there's more depth to it. On one level, asbestos is a perfect symbol for the mob itself, an invisible, slow-acting toxin that poisons everything it touches, families, communities, and entire states like New Jersey. Tony and his crew leave this contamination wherever they go, profiting from misery while denying the damage they cause.
You can't dump here anymore. You talk to your boss.
Always we are dumping here.
Caballero, put the shit back in your truck.
The show underscores this irony. Even Bobby, often seen as one of the more decent characters, is disgusted by contaminated money, but perfectly willing to dump truckloads of asbestos into a river. The mafia's selective ethics allow them to look the other way as long as they benefit.
What do you think it was?
I never asked. Tampax, the fuck do I know?
Well, now you know.
You and your friend there, Stefano, have been pocketing how much on this?
By bringing asbestos into the story at the end, the writers make a clear point. This is who these characters really are. Beneath the veneer of loyalty and tradition, they are driven by greed, leaving a trail of sickness and destruction behind them.
Billing the townships like you're following all EPA regulation.
And this isn't just fiction. Organized crime has long profited from asbestos removal, charging premium rates for proper removal, and then simply dumping it wherever is cheapest. Italian mafia groups like the 'Ndrangheta have made millions doing this, burying industrial toxins under farmland, dumping them into rivers, and even sinking entire ships full of toxic waste off the coast of Somalia. As documented by Roberto Saviano in Gomorrah. In short, asbestos is more than a plot device. It's a final, powerful reminder of the toxic legacy the mafia leaves in its wake. If you're sick of seeing loyal mobsters flip the second they taste power, you need to hear this.
Phil's a pimp. It's goddamn Johnny Sack. It's his message to the other captains, that fucking Adam.
Johnny Sack really should have taken Phil out while he had the chance. The guy was never going to be stable long-term, not with his endless grudges and that sense of entitlement prison gave him.
It'll be easy.
It's a fucking declaration of war by Johnny, if you ask me.
20 years inside didn't make Phil wiser. It just made him feel like the world owed him. Sure, he was loyal in the short term, especially in a pinch. But if Johnny had lived long enough to see past the old-school facade, getting rid of him would have been the smart move.
According to Johnny Sack, his brains are splattered all over the seat.
Johnny trusted Phil because he kept his mouth shut, 20 years upstate without a word. Definitely more dependable than Joey Peeps. Johnny could count on Phil to speak for him without stirring up more heat, and if something did happen, Phil would take the fall rather than turn on Johnny. No way was someone like that going back inside on anybody else's account after doing that kind of stretch. If Joey hadn't been so green, Johnny probably would have picked him instead. The kid was basically pulled straight out of the chorus line. My only real question: why Johnny never embraced his full name, Johnny Ballsack, like the legend he truly was? Everyone thinks mob hits are about blood and bullets, but the most lethal weapon, a face so plain it killed the romance dead. Tony sent his least charming associate to deliver the message to Gloria. He knew she had a weakness for handsome faces and would probably spin some ridiculous fantasy if given the chance. So, he made sure there was no chance. He sent Patsy.
She wanted me to fucking kill her.
Like suicide by cop.
Patsy knew exactly what was expected of him. He made it clear: no drama, no romance, no movie-style nonsense. Not that it needed saying.
For the beginning, Gloria showed me there's only a fucking hammer.
The moment Gloria laid eyes on him, whatever romantic notions she'd been clinging to disappeared in an instant.
So she set me up?
The idea of Patsy being the one to end her. That was enough to kill any lingering desire. The thought dried up every bit of longing she had, and she knew she could never face Tony again. But she still wanted Tony, so much that she couldn't imagine life without him. The idea of taking her own life felt more comforting, even more romantic than letting someone like Patsy do it. And so she did. For the record, Patsy wasn't even the ugliest guy on Tony's crew, not by a long shot. Half of them looked like they hadn't seen the inside of a gym since grade school. Tony sent Patsy because he looked like a harmless accountant, the kind of guy you might trust enough to follow without question. Gloria would have kept her distance if it had been some sleazy thug in a tracksuit. Patsy was the perfect choice. Ever wondered why Ralphie DiForetto wasn't immediately taken out after Tracy's murder? Let's talk about what really kept him alive this long.
Get him, motherfucking piece of shit!
That's right. Get it all out. Get it all out, you little hooah.
How did Ralphie not deserve everything that came his way after Tracy's murder? What's always puzzling is how he ever thought some mafia code would shield him.
Give me a fucking drink. What happened to you? Oh. Tracy. She slipped.
Imagine the absolute worst-case scenario. Ralphie kills a girl in a parking lot or outside a club. A police car happens to pass by, the body is discovered, homicide squads swarm in, and the press has a field day. It's front-page news: a stripper beaten to death outside a mob hangout. Children across New Jersey read about it. Ralphie is identified. Suddenly, everyone knows that a man who has been in the boss's house, dated a relative, and worked closely with him has murdered a pregnant young woman.
How else am I going to take care of you when you're 9 months pregnant?
Even short of that nightmare, a baby is left without a mother. Child Protective Services would have questions. Police would follow up.
3 days she missed work.
I've been sick, Sil.
Oh, yeah?
None of this would go unnoticed. Even in the best case, Ralphie's recklessness could have brought the entire crew down. Who could ever trust him after that? It's not just an impulsive act. It's a threat to the entire operation. There are endless excuses. She was a dancer. She was clumsy. It wasn't even his kid. She burned her son. She hit him first. He was high. You don't touch a made guy. But none of that matters.
What's the matter with you, huh? This is no time to go on a raid, Christopher.
Ralphie was a walking liability. Someone who would do something like this without thinking of the consequences.
I got a cousin who's a fed.
Even Tony, who usually would have every reason to have him killed, hesitated because Ralphie was too profitable, too tied up in a racket that involved the New York bosses. Punching him publicly already weakened his own position. Taking him out immediately would have caused too much friction up the ladder.
Nothing's ever enough with her.
I mean, I know I'm the RA, but technically she's not even on my floor.
And at the end of the day, it also requires a certain suspension of disbelief. Too many careless killings in that world would attract serious police attention. Real police, not the ones they have on payroll. but the series glosses over those realities. The show was never interested in airtight police procedure. Ultimately, Ralphie deserved what he got for killing Tracy. The only reason it didn't happen sooner was that A, strict realism was never a priority, and B, people like Tracy are seen as expendable, outside the family and unrelated to anyone who matters. That's the harsh reality of that world. Thanks for watching Sopranos Breakdown. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like. We're aiming for 1,000. Your support means a lot. Subscribe if you'd like to stay part of the crew. See you next time.